Hey, everybody, welcome to yet another edition of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. Happy to be here on this Monday night. A lot to get into, including Rory McIlroy winning his second green jacket in a row. Only four golfers have ever won back-to-back Masters, and he wins his sixth major. We also will preview the NBA playoffs. Who can win it all? Is there a dark horse that we're not talking about, like the Hawks, that could possibly get to the NBA Finals? Also going to talk Atlanta Braves. They are one of the hottest teams in Major League Baseball right now as they end up winning their series against the Cleveland Guardians. I'll talk local stuff to Columbus. Clean Stones, River Dragons are in the playoffs. We've got high school baseball going on, Columbus State baseball. A lot to get into, including the WNBA draft that takes place tonight. I have some thoughts on Angel Reese going to the Atlanta Dream. And then if I get time, I will talk about Mike Vrabel and Diana Russini because who likes juicy gossip that it makes great for clickbait and for sports talk radio? I'm just kidding. I don't know if I'm going to get into that because that is a very touchy subject. All right, let's talk Masters. How fun was that? Did you watch it? I know I watched it. I was captivated. I was on the edge of my seat. Congratulations to Rory McIlroy. He wins it after the first 2 days had the largest lead in Masters history. And he made it interesting where we were tuned in on Sunday because you had guys like Cam Young, you had Justin Rose, you had Columbus's own Russell Henley, and then Scotty Scheffler had two great last days and was able to finish in second place. This is what the Masters is all about. And I couldn't think of a better golfer than Rory McIlroy, who struggled 10, 11 years without a major. And when he first came up, he was considered a prodigy. We thought he was going to be the next Tiger Woods. He does win his sixth major, which ties him with Phil Mickelson. And he is in elite company because when you talk about the active golfers, because Tiger Woods is still an active golfer, 15 majors. Phil Mickelson's got 6. Rory McIlroy's got 6. This really puts him in elite status. And I think that Rory McIlroy, deserving to win the Masters, was able to come out on top and get his second straight green jacket. Let's talk about Scotty Scheffler because he had a late charge and ended up finishing second. He felt there was a lot he left on the table, but to come in second, this is a guy that's won 2 Masters before Rory McIlroy. So yeah, Rory McIlroy and Scotty Scheffler winning 4 out of the last 5 Masters. I think that this is a very fascinating rivalry, and I can't wait for the PGA Championship and the U.S. Open and the Open Championship because I'm really captivated with the majors. I know the talks was on Tiger Woods and the rehab situation. We wanted to see Tiger Woods play in the Masters. I know I did as a sports fan, but come on, folks. He's 50 years old. He's got to get his body right, but also he's got to get his life turned around, going to rehab and trying to fix his situation before he can even get out and play competitive golf. That is the number one priority. But back to Rory McIlroy, 36 years old, still has a lot of golf left, and he is a very classy golfer that does it the right way. And I know that he can be the type of golfer could be on the edge of your seat because he ends up getting a double bogey, he hits it in the water, then all of a sudden his lead in the Masters completely evaporates. Well, that's Rory McIlroy for you. So congratulations to him. And I tell you, elite company, Jack Nicklaus, Nick Faldo, Tiger Woods, and now Rory McIlroy. They're the only 4 golfers in golf history that has won back-to-back Masters. So congratulations to him. And, you know, it's great when we're talking about the Masters. It's one of those traditions. Yeah, it's a tradition like any other. But it's also when you get captivated with it, you got to be there first. And, you know, that's a different story. I mean, I know it's here in Augusta. And I feel maybe one day I might be able to go to the Masters and talk about that experience. But I always look at the local angle because here in Columbus, Georgia, it was a couple years ago. We had Larry Mize playing in it. We had Russell Henley. He was in contention back in 2023. We had Ben Carr, who I've had on the show almost make the cut at the Masters. But how about Russell Henley? I want to give him his flowers because Russell Henley was one shot back. He finishes tied for third. He had a -10 throughout the entire tournament. He's one of the top golfers in the world. And this is something that Columbus, Georgia can be proud of. So Russell Henley had a great day as well. So yeah, the Masters is over. Now we're on to the PGA Championship. Congratulations to Rory McIlroy. I really feel bad for Justin Rose. He had a 2-shot lead in that final day, and he bogeyed and double bogeyed a couple of holes to go back in the finish tied for third. Also, a guy like Cam Young had a chance to win this. There was a lot of golfers that were there in contention that could have won this thing. Hatton was another golfer. So it was a fun Masters. And, with Rory McIlroy, he was on that 18th hole. He had a 2-shot lead. All he had to do is 2-putt it in, and he ended up getting a 1-stroke win over Scottie Scheffler. I never thought once, even though he had a bad first shot on the 18th hole, I never thought once that Rory McIlroy was going to double bogey it, and we're end up seeing a playoff between him and Scottie Scheffler. I know that would be what the casual fans would want, but that's not the case. So congratulations to Rory McIlroy. Let's switch gears, talk NBA playoffs, because the play-in tournament is going to be taking place tomorrow. The NBA regular season is over. This is what we came for. This is what we want to see. NBA playoffs. I know that the knock on the regular season is the superstars take all this time off and they don't play defense in the regular season. Are we going to see LeBron James flip the switch like he always does, or are the Lakers too depleted with Luka and Austin Reeves out for the regular season? Are they going to be ready for the playoffs? I'm going to make my predictions. First of all, I did not like the fact that the Hawks decided to rest everybody and not play for the number 5 seed. Now they're going to be the 6th seed because they lost to the Miami Heat, and they're going to end up playing the Knicks. Is that a better matchup than them playing the Cavaliers? I don't know, but I'm going to go ahead and talk about the play-in tournament games because we have the 76ers and the Magic. I believe the 76ers win fully healthy. Tyrese Maxey, Joel Embiid, Paul George, VJ Edgecombe. I think that they could be a team that could be a sleeper team coming out of the Eastern Conference. The Magic, we know that the Orlando Magic with Paolo Banchero, Franz Wagner, Jalen Suggs, they got a pretty good team. The Hornets is really the team that I was shocked that they actually made the playoffs. Colin Cowell is one of those players that could be a candidate for Rookie of the Year. Miami is just banged up. When they traded away Jimmy Butler, I thought that the Miami Heat still, because of that Heat culture with Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero might not even play. So I think that the Miami Heat that barely got into this thing, I think they lose to the Hornets. I think the 76ers beat the Magic. And then I think the Hornets beat the Magic to get into the playoffs. Over in the Western Conference, again, we knew that the top 10 teams were going to make the playoffs. The Golden State Warriors are hobbling into the playoffs. No Jimmy Butler out for the season. An injured Kristaps Porzingis, an injured Steph Curry. The dynasty is officially over. The Clippers, remember they got rid of James Harden, but they still have Kawhi Leonard. I still think that the LA Clippers have something to prove. I think they beat the Warriors. I think the Phoenix Suns, who have pretty good players, Devin Booker, Dylan Brooks, they're actually not a bad team. The Trailblazers is a team that I was shocked that they were able to make the playoffs. But I do think the Suns win there, and I think the Clippers beat the Warriors and they beat the Trailblazers. So here's what the playoffs look like. The defending NBA champion, Oklahoma City Thunder, have the number 1 overall seed. I think it's going to be an easy path in that first round. I think they sweep the team that they're going to play in the first round, which is going to be the Clippers. I think it's going to be Thunder and Clippers in the first round. They're going to sweep them. The Spurs are going to end up sweeping the Phoenix Suns. Although I think the Spurs are the team that is probably the youngest team, that is the team that has to prove the most. But Wemby and De'Aaron Fox and Stephon Castle, they're very good pieces. Trenton Hassel, they've got some pieces. But I think that the lack of experience could be their Achilles heel. Lakers, Rockets, I think if Luka and Austin Reeves don't play, I think the Rockets end up winning this in 5 or even 6. The Houston Rockets end up winning the series against the Lakers. Remember when we thought the Lakers were a championship team? When LeBron, Luka, and Austin Reeves were fully healthy? I just think that the Houston Rockets with Kevin Durant, remember they were a 2 seed last year. I think Kevin Durant, there's nobody that could stop Kevin Durant. He is a great offensive player. They've got the scrappy player in Dylan Brooks. They've got one of the Thompson twins. They got Jabari Smith. They got Segun. They got Clint Capella. They got some good pieces. I just don't think the Lakers have depth on the bench, and they cannot defend the three. This is the same story that they had last year. I don't understand why they got rid of Darvin Ham. I think that J.J. Redick could be on the hot seat if the Lakers have a first-round exit. Let's talk Nuggets and Timberwolves. Remember, this is a rematch of the Western Conference Finals a couple of years ago. Look, I just think Anthony Edwards needs help. I wasn't a big fan of that Julius Randle, Karl Anthony Towns trade. I do think that the Timberwolves have some good pieces, but the Denver Nuggets look like a championship team. Nikola Jokic is the best player in the NBA. Because the Nuggets have been there, and they got players like Aaron Gordon, and they got players like Jamal Murray, they have pieces that know how to get it done, and I think the Denver Nuggets roll over the Timberwolves. I think they win in 5. Let's go over to the East. Cavaliers and Raptors. Raptors haven't been here in a while since the 2020 season. Remember, they have some young pieces. Brandon Ingram is not proven to be a big-time postseason guy. They do have Scotty Barnes, but all those pieces that helped them win a championship, like Fred VanVleet and Kawhi Leonard and Pascal Siakam, they're gone. They're gone from the Raptors. I think that Cleveland, the big factor is James Harden. How much is James Harden going to contribute in the playoffs? I still think that Donovan Mitchell is going to go off. Evan Mobley, pretty good defensive player. I think the Cavaliers find a way to beat the Toronto Raptors. This is the matchup I wanted the Hawks to have, but the Hawks are going to have that 6-3 matchup against the New York Knicks. This is the same opponent that they beat in the first round in 2021. But this time, no Trae Young going to the Garden. Are the Hawks proven enough? Because the way they've been playing down the stretch, and yes, they were trying to get healthy. That's why they didn't play anybody in the final game of the regular season. Are the Hawks deep enough to upset the Knicks? We know about the Knicks and Jalen Brunson, Mikal Bridges, Karl Anthony Towns, but no Tom Thibodeau. Mike Brown is a different head coach than Tom Thibodeau. Do the Hawks have the pieces? Can they get it done with Jalen Johnson, Nickeil Alexander-Walker? I think they can. And I'm calling the upset here. I'm going to say the Atlanta Hawks beat the New York Knicks in the first round to make it to the second round of the playoffs. So let's take a look at the Detroit Pistons, which I think are going to end up taking on the Charlotte Hornets. And I think the Boston Celtics are going to take on the Philadelphia 76ers, where that's going to be a fantastic 2-7 matchup. But I think with Jason Tatum coming back, Boston ends up winning that series and winning it in, I'm going to say 6. The Pistons, I think they win that series in 5 over the Charlotte Hornets. So now we got second round matchups. Detroit taking on Cleveland, and we have the Celtics taking on the Hawks. I think because of the history that the Boston Celtics have against the Atlanta Hawks, where I think the Hawks have only won one playoff series. I'm thinking 1988, 2008, 2014. The Hawks have, it seems like they've faced the Celtics in the playoffs like almost a lot. Not every year, but the Atlanta Hawks, just a bad matchup against the Boston Celtics. I think the Celtics win there. And I think that the Pistons find a way. I don't know if Cade Cunningham's going to come back. But I think because they're the number 1 overall seed, I think they find the way to beat Cleveland. The Pistons have an easy path to get to the Eastern Conference Finals, folks. I honestly think that it's going to be the Pistons in Boston in the Eastern Conference Finals. The Boston Celtics end up winning in 6. Even though the Pistons have home court, they're going to steal a couple games in Detroit. But I think that the Boston Celtics have too much championship experience. They get to the finals over in the Western Conference. You got the Thunder getting past the Clippers. They're going to take on the Rockets in the second round. I can't wait for Nuggets Spurs. I am looking forward to Nuggets Spurs in the divisional round. I think the Denver Nuggets get the upset. And so we got the Nuggets and the Thunder. It's rare that with 7 championships in the last 7 years, we have not seen 8 championships in the last 8 years. Could the Detroit Pistons end up getting that, be that 8th team that won a championship? But I honestly think that the Oklahoma City Thunder are just too strong. They have Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, Jalen Williams, Chet Holmgren, who could possibly be Defensive Player of the Year. Chet Holmgren is going to find a way to neutralize Nikola Jokic. But I think that the Denver Nuggets and the Oklahoma City Thunder, they meet in the Western Conference Finals. And your NBA Finals, I think it's going to be the Oklahoma City Thunder and the Boston Celtics, with the Thunder, because they are dominant at home. The Thunder end up beating the Celtics in 7. I'm going to say 7 because I want to see a game 7 in the NBA Finals. And we're going to have our first back-to-back champion since the 17 and 18 Golden State Warriors. So that streak of 7 champions in 7 years is coming to an end this season because the Oklahoma City Thunder are going to be back-to-back champions. And now we could start talking about a dynasty. That's my NBA playoffs prediction in a nutshell. All right, let's move on to the WNBA. I have my thoughts on Angel Reese going to the Dream. What a move for the Atlanta Dream. She fits the bill when it comes to ATL and ATL culture. Angel Reese is it. I'm telling you, this is a great move that's not only going to sell tickets, but she is a marketable player, especially in Atlanta. I guarantee you that there's going to be a lot of games that are going to be moved over to State Farm Arena because the demand for tickets at Gateway are going to be in high demand. I've already seen ticket prices skyrocket. Angel Reese jerseys flying off the shelf. This is a huge move for the Atlanta Dream. And every time they play the Indiana Fever, it's even going to be bigger box office. I like this move. Angel Reese going to the Atlanta Dream. We got the WNBA draft that's happening tonight. The Dallas Wings on the clock. Do they get AZ Fudd? Do they get that player from Spain? I mean, the guard from TCU. I mean, there's a lot of options. I think Lauren Betts is still available, after winning her championship with UCLA. I got to say, I'm excited that we've got women's college basketball that just wrapped up. Congratulations to the UCLA Bruins and Corey Kloss, who is the head coach, who just happened to play basketball at the high school I attended. So I thought that was pretty cool. And then you got the WNBA draft that's happening tonight. And then the WNBA season is going to be here before you know it in the beginning of May. So, it's a lot to sink in, but I do think it's pretty awesome that we have all this together. All right, let's go and take a break. When we come back, I'm going to talk about the Atlanta Braves and how their season's going. And I'm also going to talk local to Columbus because this is a podcast dedicated to Columbus. And I have my final thoughts. Don't go anywhere. It's a Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. And we'll be right back after this. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. How about those Atlanta Braves? They take 2 out of 3 against the Cleveland Guardians. Right now, the Atlanta Braves are in first place in the NL East. They are 2 games ahead of the Miami Marlins with a 10-6 record. And this is a big 3-game series with the Marlins. And then they got a 3-game series with the Philadelphia Phillies. That's actually going to be on the road. Then they play the Nationals. Then they're back to playing the Phillies. I'm telling you, the Atlanta Braves, despite the struggles from Ronald Acuna Jr., he's only batting like 240, the struggles from Mike Yastrzemski, and then the struggles from Austin Riley, and with all the injuries on their pitching staff, the fact that they're 10-6, I mean, this is incredible. And the Atlanta Braves should be thankful that they've got a manager in Walt Weiss that I think he's weathered the storm, and they're finding ways to win games. And after shellacking the Cleveland Guardians 13-1, they've got bench players like Dominic Smith hitting big-time home runs. Drake Baldwin having a great sophomore season after winning Rookie of the Year last year. The Atlanta Braves look like, I know it's early, but they look like they could be a playoff team just by the way they're playing, and they're only going to get better. I'm so impressed with Drake Baldwin. 5 home runs, 17 RBIs. Matt Olson, he's got an incredible streak that can rival Cal Ripken Jr. as he's played over 1,000 straight games. It's incredible. We know about the Marcio Dubon, who's pretty good shortstop. He's just plug and play. You know, they get rid of Dansby Swanson. They get rid of Orlando Arcia. No problem. Marcio Dubon is just coming in and making sure that everything is top notch. Dominic Smith starting to become that designated hitter. I do think that they will need depth, especially with injuries that could prolong. Michael Harris, you know, he's been kind of banged up. Ozzy Albies has had an injury history, obviously, with Ronald Acuna Jr. I mean, I think that they got to have some depth. Pitching, I've been so impressed with their pitching. Bryce Elder, 102 earned run average. Grant Holmes, 255. Ronaldo Lopez, 15115. Are you kidding me? And then Chris Sale, who's had 4 quality starts so far this season. They've got their starting pitching. Their starting pitching is intact until Spencer Strider, Spencer Schwallenbach, AJ Smith, Shawver, when they all come back, they're going to have some starting pitching that you could throw into the bullpen. So congratulations to the Braves. I'm just saying, big 3-game series against the Miami Marlins coming up. Looking at the rest of Major League Baseball, there really hasn't been any surprises. We know about the Dodgers. We know how great they are. 11-4. I mean, right now, they got the best record in all of Major League Baseball. The American League is wide open. I mean, there's not really a team that's pulling away. But the Dodgers starting to pull away. And when you have guys like Andy Pagas, who doesn't really get paid a whole lot, with 4 home runs and 17 RBIs, you know, the big question is the players like Will Smith and Miguel Rojas, who came up huge in the World Series. And then, of course, Kyle Tucker, he has struggled. So their big signee in the free agent has been a struggle so far. But it's players like Andy Pagas and Teoscar Hernandez who has really stepped up when it mattered the most. Let's look at the pitching, because you could easily say that Shohei Ohtani has been the best pitcher so far in baseball this year. He has pitched 12 innings and has not given up a run. Think about that stat, because there's been a lot of great pitchers that might have an earned run average, might hovering at 1, has not given up a run yet. That is incredible. He's given up 1 run, but it was unearned. But you have Tyler Glasnow, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and then Roki Saki, who sounded like Shredder. But that's neither here or there. The Dodgers have very good pitching. Yeah, ERA, not as good as I thought. Maybe, Sasaki has a 6.23 ERA. Remember, the Dodgers are back-to-back champions. Every team is going to give them their best shot. They're going to find ways to try to knock this pitching out, but the Dodgers score so many runs, you can have a starter that's got maybe a 5 or a 6 earned run average and still be okay. So that's something I want to throw out there. I still think the Dodgers are favorites to three-peat. We have not had that since the New York Yankees did it in 98, 99, and 2000. And the last National League team to three-peat, I mean, you got to go back way into the timeline. I have no idea when was the last time a National League team three-peated. I know that the Reds won back-to-back the Big Red Machine in the 1970s, but that's about it. And come on, I'm a baseball historian, so I'm looking at the baseball standings. Not a big surprise. It's still early in the season. Right now, the team with the worst record in baseball is Chicago White Sox and the San Francisco Giants and the Colorado Rockies. They all have a 6-10 record. There's really not a bad team in Major League Baseball. And the Dodgers have an 11-4 record, and that is the best in Major League Baseball. You know who has the best record in the American League? The Cleveland Guardians with a 9-7 record, and they just lost 2 out of 3 to the Braves. The Twins have a 9-7 record. Look at the AL East. Baltimore and the Yankees and the Rays all have an 8-7 record, and they are tied for first place in the AL East. It is wide open in Major League Baseball. All right, so I want to take this time, a part of the show, and to kind of transition over to local sports here in Columbus, Georgia. When I started this podcast, I wanted to dedicate it to local sports in Columbus, Georgia. And, as I've been doing Sports Visions and I've been doing Georgia Alabama Sports Live, we do a lot of local sports there on the show. And, if I'm repeating myself, I apologize, but I don't want to say that I'm truly blessed that I get to cover sports here in the Fountain City. I love Columbus. I call Columbus home, and we've got a lot of stuff going on. River Dragons are in the playoffs. They're taking on the Monroe Moccasins on Friday. Columbus Lions season opener. At one time, I used to be the voice of the Columbus Lions. And as they've gotten bigger, obviously, I've taken a step back and I've done lesser roles because we got to get big-time announcers. And I respect that. And one thing about me as a broadcaster, I'm willing to recognize talent and take a step back and go into more of a reserve role, like a producer or a color guy, because, as much as I have a big ego and I think I'm the best baseball announcer in the world, there's still a lot of great baseball announcers out there. And that's why I've kind of taken a step back. I still love talking sports. That's why I love doing the sports beat. But just the local stuff that we have, the Clean Stones have won 5 straight. They're getting ready to take on the Biloxi Shuckers for a 6-game series. I got to get out to Synovus Park. I really want to get out there and catch a game. All right, before I close the show, I have my thoughts on Mike Vrabel and Diana Rossini. Oh boy, what a mess this is. Look, it's easy to fall into that temptation as a sports broadcaster who wants to get clicks, to want to get people to watch my videos, to talk about this. But you got to understand, 2 lives are at stake. Really, their spouses' lives are in danger as well of spreading just a horrible, horrible rumor. Look, yeah, those pictures, they don't look great. But shame on the person that's trying to get these 2 in trouble. Look, they're great friends. I'm going to be professional about this. I'm going to say they are great friends, that just maybe those pictures weren't the most flattering pictures when it comes to, well, if you polled Mike Vrabel's wife, would she appreciate that picture? Or Diana Rossini's husband, would you appreciate that picture? So, yeah, it looks bad. But I'm here to say it's even worse when Diana Rossini is a reporter who breaks stories, and she had an invested interest in A.J. Brown, that whole trade to the Eagles when Mike Vrabel was the coach of the Titans. Look, she's that type of reporter that will become the first source when it comes to breaking injury reports and trade reports. And so the Athletic let her go. Yeah, it's unfortunate because she is a very talented reporter. I don't think Mike Vrabel's going to get in trouble. But do you think that this was blown out of proportion? And I'm not going to say comment below or anything like that. I think this was blown out of proportion. We in the media, we want that juicy story so bad. I remember in the beginning of the year, the whole Joy Taylor, Skip Bayless thing. I was salivating at the mouth, and I wasn't taking it like Jason Whitlock. That was going a little too far. But it was a very compelling, captivating story. But as a member of the media, I got to keep my professionalism. Yeah, these stories happen. But you've got to be professional as a broadcaster and kind of know your limits and know not to go there. That's why I was talking to DJ. I was like, let's not talk about this. And like he agreed because, I try to keep a professionalism on the Sports Visions Morning Show. I could be a little bit more out of bounds on this show, but, I still am a professional broadcaster and I want to keep it that way. Hey, I know it's not sports related, but a big shout out to the 4 astronauts that returned to Earth last week from Artemis 2. They are truly heroes. It was amazing. Look, I know with all the craziness going on in the world, the fact that they flew the furthest than any person in the history of our world. I applaud them. That was great. It was captivating. It really allows a new generation of people who are fascinated by space to want to become astronauts someday. And we have not had that in like 30, 40 years. I mean, it's been a long drought of having a generation of people who want to be astronauts. So I applaud them. Hey, what a great show. We had a lot to talk about. Don't forget that you could catch me on the Sports Visions Morning Show every Monday through Friday from 6 to 9 with Thrip Barringer and DJ Jones. I tell you, I was driving through Columbus and I heard Brian Thomas, our announcer, that did a promo and it had my name. And I'm telling you, I got chills. I'm like, oh, he really said Richard Holdridge. Wow. This is incredible. I've had so much fun. I've been there for about a year and a half now. I love what I do at Georgia Alabama Sports Live. I'm here to say I am not going anywhere. I'm going to continue busting my butt at Georgia Alabama Sports Live to become the best broadcaster I possibly can. Despite all the rumors and things that you might have heard, I am here to stay. Thank you so much for watching another episode of the Sports Beat with Richard Holdridge. Don't know when I'm going to be back on. Maybe next week, maybe in 2 weeks. Who knows? But have a great rest of your night, everybody.